We're gonna kick off first with you, Sharon, and you have seen something that I think it's a documentary.
A
One of those
documentary.
one of those things that Netflix keeps bringing up, going, "Hey, you want to see this? Hey, you want to see this? Hey, you want to see this?" And you're like, "Leave me alone." But you actually listened and went, "Yeah, maybe I will see this." Well, this
Okay.
is Trainwreck, Woodstock '99. So, Sharon, tell us about this.
But to Trainwreck at Woodstock 99 is a three-part documentary series, and as it was a three-day festival, each part basically takes a day in the
Mm-hmm.
life of this festival. And it was Woodstock 99 was supposed to be um, a grand return to like the Summer of Love. It was 30 years after the original Woodstock Festival. The original people who devised the original Woodstock Festival
Yep.
coming together to bring a modern vibe to this sort of peace and love with music vibe thing. And they thought, yeah, we'll do it. In the summer of 99, we're going to create a new Woodstock. We're going to make it bigger, better, louder.
Yeah.
Then basically, more or less from the get go, things started to go wrong. Because as with the Isle of Wight Festival of the 1960s, the one that everyone talks about on the Isle of Wight that had like 100,000 people camping out across the downs, they didn't make any money because the people turned up with no tickets. They pulled all the fencing down and then they just streamed in. And this is what similar thing happened in the original Woodstock, that people ended up just the majority of the people there had no tickets. So they
Yeah.
decided to put the Woodstock 99 on a disused army airbase.
Mm-hmm.
Again, changing the vibe slightly from just like this urban idyll to a former military base.
Yeah.
And then they charged a lot of money. They didn't let people take anything in with them, as in no water, no food, no nothing. So they were forced to pay for everything, but even water.
Yeah.
And it became basically from having like this um, free, easy sort of laid back vibe, it became a commercial enterprise.
Yeah.
And basically, from the beginning, from its inception, things started to go wrong.
Yeah.
They had problems with the contractors, they had problems with the crowd, with the vibe of the crowd was quite aggressive, apparently, in times, even from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were charging people like $4 for a bottle of water as opposed to just like 50 cents outside of the space, these things sort of set off an ugly tone.
Yeah.
And over the 3 days, it got progressively worse until it culminated in basically a riot.
Mm.
Lots of the stands were destroyed. There was burning, there was looting, and there were rapes.
Raves or rapes?
Rapes. Women were
Oh, good
assaulted.
lord. Yeah.
In this anarchy. The security were basically local college students who were told, if you want to earn $100 over the weekend, come along and you can be security at Woodstock. So there was very little professional security. They ended up bringing the army in at one point because it was just becoming unsafe. But then they refused to go. What the fire brigade refused to enter the site because it was unsafe. It just became a nightmare of violence and everything that went wrong. So this documentary basically it sort of points out the warning signs that were ignored, and then it charts how they sort of descended into complete chaos. And how one of the sets there was Fatboy Slim, who had a
Yes.
rave set, and he said his set was basically destroyed while this van basically drove through the crowd. It just appeared it was been stolen and then driven into the rave. And when they actually security managed to get to this van, they found an unconscious girl in the back of the van who had been assaulted, basically.
Oh
She was
god.
unconscious, partially undressed, obviously had been the victim of sexual violence and was unconscious, and they believe she was like 14 or 15. And
Oh.
so
Oh.
Fat Boy Slim was like saying this was not what you want when you're having this. Everyone was like pumped up and having a rave, and then this horrible crime was happening literally in the middle of the rave. And
Oh,
so this
good
documentary
lord.
charts basically how whatever could go wrong with a large festival did go wrong on this event. And it was a combination of the bands they chose. There are a lot of like hard metal acts who were playing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the crowd tends to be young men who got ramped up. There was
Young angry men, yeah.
yeah, and then there was a lot of alcohol was freely available, even though it was something like it's cheaper than alcohol. There's a lot of drug misuse going on. They could say people could smell it. There was just a vibe that was slightly. It was not like that laid back. Let's all have a lovely
Yeah,
time
yeah.
sort of
Yeah,
vibe. It was
because because I remember when this happened. I remember them talking in a big way about, oh god, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is terrible. But I never really paid attention to it, because I'm not a massive festival goer, so it was not something that was particularly on my radar. But I just remember people saying that it was horrific, and the vibe of this, that when you see the trailers, the unwanted instant trailers that Netflix gives you, it seemed to be like. Did you ever watch the Fire Festival documentary?
I didn't, but I'm aware of it, so I'm aware that there are similarities.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I wonder whether it's made by the same people, but okay. With all these things, was it something that you would recommend watching?
I would say yes and no. I mean,
Apologies. My daughter's having a nappy changed and she doesn't like it. She wants none of that.
I'm not playing that game.
Yeah.
Yes and no, because the subject matter was quite grim.
Yep.
So it's quite intense. But I thought it was interesting because obviously I'm on the Isle of Wight, as we sort of mention every week, and the Isle of Wight it's like Glastonbury, has had a festival. You know, they did loads in the 60s and they revived it a number of years ago. So we have an annual music festival that varies in size from 50,000 to 70,000 people, and it's literally sort of 2 miles from where I live. So I can hear it when it's on. I can hear the music playing, and I think people have learned lessons from Woodstock '99, so that when you go to a festival now, even though you can have large numbers of people, they work hard to make sure that the vibe is, you have a good vibe.
Yes.
Though I think trying to prevent drugs from getting in is almost like an unwinnable battle. But because I was uncomfortable with the last time I went, because you can smell cannabis blowing in the breeze, which I don't want when I'm at a festival. I want to listen to music, not sort of be surrounded by other people's criminality.
Yeah.
But so it's a cautionary tale, but it was worth it if you like festivals and you are interested in documentary, true event documentaries, then I would say it's worth it. So I would probably give it a 3. I mean, because it was interesting. I wasn't involved because I hadn't been to Woodstock, but it did basically mark the end of that sort of festival in America to a large extent. Whereas in this country, we've got Glastonbury, we've got Festival Reading. There's loads of festivals. They're part of the British summer.
Yeah, because I know in America they still have Coachella. They have Coachella and they have South by South, and I feel like Coachella seems to have taken a lot of stuff from Glastonbury, but it also is a lot more polished, corporate than Glastonbury. I mean, Glastonbury definitely has its corporate thing. If you compared like the original Glastonbury to what it is now. Yeah. Sorry if I sound like I'm far away. My daughter is playing with my daughter is playing with the microphone with the recording equipment. But but Glastonbury still has that sort of free spirit thing, and I think Coachella is a bit more kind of no, this is commercial, but it but it but it still works. So 3 stars, 3 out of 5 stars for Trainwreck Woodstock 1999. All right.